Well, welcome. It is 2024. We are in the month of January, a month and a half left until spring training, and we got a lot of moves left with our New York Mets. A lot of moves left, but there's a lot of excitement in the air. And I got to say, the Mets obviously just made a move. They signed Sean Manaea to a pretty reasonable contract. And I had my thoughts on it. I had my opinions. But I got to say, since the signing, I've drastically changed. And I just want to say one thing. I give my opinions here. I could be right. I could be wrong. I don't have an agenda. It's what I feel from the heart. But from looking at this move, from looking at what it entails, I see a lot of positives. I see a direction right now. And at the end of the day, these guys, whether we sign a Luis Severino, whether we acquired an Adrian Hauser, whether we just signed a Sean Manaea, if one of these guys breaks out and the team doesn't perform, there always can be trade chips. They always can be a trade chip at the deadline. So at the end of the day, if all else fails, David Stearns has acquired a couple new trade chips. That's the worst that can happen. But let's look at the upside. Let's look at the potential that we have here because, folks, I think there is a lot of potential. The more and more I heard and read up about Sean Manaea, the more and more I like. And obviously, everybody's talking about the drive line and him working to upgrade his pitching. He's upgraded his velocity on his fastball. He's enhanced his repertoire. He's added a slider or slurve, whatever it is. But, he's enhanced his repertoire. He's enhanced his velocity, enhanced his stuff. So for us to evaluate him on his numbers from years ago, it might not even be fair because we're talking about a guy who can be seen or viewed as a different pitcher. For once, we acquired a guy who is not on the downhill, a guy who is still in his low 30s, a guy who can still ascend. Hey, why not us? Usually we don't sign a guy like Zach Wheeler or don't sign a Justin Turner or Daniel Murphy, and then they go to another team or break out. Maybe David Stearns is the guy that, he can pinpoint that free agent or that player that will break out for our team, that will provide value to our team for once. And Sean Manaea is a guy that I'm not blown away by. But he's a guy that, based on his tools and based on the fact that he has developed new, like I said, a new repertoire, like it's yet to be seen. I'd rather invest in a guy like that than invest in what we've been investing in the last couple years. So that's what I really like. And I looked into Driveline. I didn't really know much about it, but if you want to talk about the science of baseball, it seemed like that organization, with what they do, they really break it down to a science. So I'm hoping that in a case of Sean Manaea, I'm hoping that whatever they work with him, it just his talent takes over because the guy has the tools. He's a 6'5" lefty. He used to be more of a soft tosser, but now he's with the uptick in velocity, he could be more like a Robbie Ray or maybe even like a Blake Snell because his stuff is not far off now. Now, if you go to Baseball Savant, and I'm going to show you what I'm referring to. We're going to look at what he excels in. So I'm going to bring that up right now to you. Yuki, how's it going? Stony, how's it going? Hopefully we're all having a great day. Let me see here. Okay. So this is Sean Manaea's baseball savant for 2023. What does the guy do well? What does he need help with? So, like I said, it's really hard to evaluate him, especially since he's a guy who has been improving. He's a guy who, like I said, has worked with Driveline, and he did perform well in September. I believe his ERA was 2.25 or 2.5. He did really good in September, but if you look at his numbers on a whole, you see really two or three categories right here where he really does excel. His extension is in the 96th percentile. His hard hit rate percentage was in the 68th percentile. Not great, but it's not bad. And then his K percentage was in the 67th percentile. So he strikes out about 9 or 10 batters per game. So that's not bad. Now, other categories here, expected ERA, not great. He's usually in all these categories, it looks like he's in the 50th percentile or less. If you go back and you look at other years, Sean Manaea's extension, he's always been a guy he's a big, long guy. He's 6'5". He's always gotten a lot of extension. But in 2023, his fastball was at 94 miles per hour. And if you go back to other years, so let's go, for example, 2020, his fastball's 90 miles per hour. Again, his extension is still good. His based on ball percentage was fantastic. But the fact that I can go back 3 years and look at his average fastball in 2023 was 94 miles per hour. His average fastball in 2020 was 90 miles per hour. So that is a significant change. If we go back like even further in time, okay, so he still sat around 90. He still has the great extension. He still has the great percentage with the walks. But, if we go back to 2023, the thing that we do like is his K percentage went way up. So does that have anything to do with the velocity? Does it have to do with his slider? It may. But the fact is, it looks like you have a commodity right here that is on an ascending track, that he is getting better. So that's what I really do like about Sean Manaea. And guys, let me just fix something. Yeah, Yuki, that's a good point. So, I like that. Hard to like the Sean Manaea signing when you see the Dodgers are getting Yamamoto, Ohtani, Glasnow, and now Teoscar Hernandez. Now, as soon as the Mets came out and made that announcement that they signed Manaea, I had the same exact reaction as you. I pounded the table. I'm like, damn, this guy stinks. I wanted him 2 or 3 years ago, but he's not a guy who's going to really move the table. But then I stepped back, I did a little more research. I'm like, okay, you know what? This guy has shown improvement. This guy has, improved his stuff. And also, I have confidence, and I don't think this is the last move. I think that we're going to add another ace. I truly believe that we cannot rely on Kodai Senga for a number of reasons. Kodai Senga, I don't think he's an ace. I really don't think he's an ace. He's a very nice pitcher. He's had a bit of an injury history. Fortunately, with us, he didn't get injured, but, he's a nice number 2. But our rotation becomes that much better, that much stronger right now if we add a true ace, sliding Kodai Senga down to the number 2 spot, whether you want to put Quintana at number 3, whether you want to put Severino at number 3, Hauser, I'd rather have him at the end of the rotation. But bottom line right now, if you slot in an ace, no matter who you go after, if you go after Dylan Cease, or you contact the Miami Marlins for one of their young pitchers, if we can get a guy where we can slot him in at number 2 or number 1, our depth gets so much better. Our options get so much better. So that is something that I would like to see. Now, there is like a lot of like really fodder out there, and I've seen this in the last couple of days, that the Mets really don't know what they're doing. and what was the guy's name? He was a former GM, and I don't know who saw this. Jim Bowden. Whoever saw what Jim Bowden said about the Mets in the last couple of days, you really got to shake your head, because this is a former GM. And I know his job right now is to provide commentary on the teams, but he really, really slapped the Mets around. Like I said, I don't know who saw it. I'm going to actually bring up an article and we're going to go over this, but I really felt like it was unnecessary. Like, he almost had something personal with David Stern or Steve Cohen. I mean, this guy who's a former GM knows that David Stern just took over the team 2 months ago, and logically, you're not going to be able to do what you want to do when you're just getting to know the organization. So that I just really didn't understand. I mean, Jim Bowden I just don't think he likes the Mets for some reason, doesn't like David Stern, doesn't like Steve Cohen. Maybe he was trying to get the job. I don't know. It just felt like there was a lot of sour grapes in his commentary. And we're going to go over a lot this video, but this is something that really bothered me. So I want to read you some of these comments and maybe see what you guys think about this. Okay, so look at this. So this is comment by another GM, right? So they title the article, "Meet the Mediocre Mets, mocks ex-GM in a scathing analysis." So this is a comment by former GM, Jim Bowden, and he goes, "I look at this rotation, I say to myself, this is a fourth place team. And watch out for the Washington, because they might actually go past them," Bowden added. "This is not a contending team for me. It's not a wild card team. It's all of a sudden an aging team, and I just don't think they've done enough in the starting rotation to be competitive this year." Okay, so this was right after the Manaea signing. And I got to say, okay, yeah, we know that we're not the Dodgers right now. We haven't made the moves like the Dodgers have made. We have a lot of teams right now that we technically need to catch up to. But to say that the Washington Nationals are going to pass us, to say that, the team is aging, I mean, like last year you could have said that, but we have guys in their low 30s and we have a lot of youngsters. So I just thought there was a lot of sour grapes there, and, it just wasn't a fair analysis. It wasn't a fair and it wasn't an accurate analysis. So I just found that kind of interesting, kind of funny, and just extremely out of left field for a guy to evaluate our team in such of a lack of disregard in terms of reality. So another thing I liked about this article, they actually went to Manaea's monthly numbers from 2023. His new pitch, the sweeper. So they said as the season progressed, he used the sweeper more and more. In May, he used the sweeper 4%. In June, 18%. In July, 17%. In August, 25%. And as we go down, his ERA kind of ticked up. It hit a plateau or peak in June. It was at 5.17. Then in August, it went down to 3.15. And I believe it went down even lower than that in September. His first 11 appearances, he stunk. 32 innings, 6.61 ERA, 28.9 strikeout rate, 12.5 walk rate. His final 26 appearances, 85 innings, 3.6 ERA, 24.2 strikeout rate, 6.6 walk rate, 44% ground ball induced, and 6 homers. So look, 85 innings, 6 homers. The first 32 innings, 8 homers. So he was clearly inducing a lot more ground balls. They weren't elevating the ball. He had a lot better earning average. He didn't have as high of a strikeout rate, but it didn't matter. He was just extremely more successful. So that's Manaea right there. That's what I believe he kind of brings to the table. He brings potential. He brings potential. All right, I'm just gonna fix one thing. All right. Okay, good. Hey Dante, so can't judge Stearns on 24 when he has 60 million of dead weight to absorb and a win or lose, the kids need at bats. 25 will be their top tier acquisition year. So I mean that's spot on right there. I mean it's really hard to evaluate because that 60 million is obviously taken up by Verlander, Scherzer, and even to an extent McCann. I believe we owe McCann about 8 million. So we have a crap load of money, $60 million. If we really wanted to divvy that money up, we could divvy that money and hand it out to potential free agents that could help the team. But the $60 million is dead weight. But this is what I do want to mention because Stearns is not done. He's not done. And everybody who was saying that we're going to reset the luxury tax, from what I looked at Fangraphs, we're over 297 million. We're about 306 million right now. So we're well over the Steve Cohen so-called luxury tax. So we're going to pay luxury tax, right? And if you all remember what Steve Cohen said, Steve Cohen says that if I'm going over the luxury tax, I'm going well over. Well, I don't know if he's going to go well over in this situation, but if we're not resetting the luxury tax this year, it kind of does tell me that we are going to try to be competitive. We are. So if we have a good first 3 months, I do see us putting ourselves in a position to add based on the fact that we're not going under 297. If we were under the 297 and found a way to shed a payroll, I would say we're going in a different direction. But we still need to add another bat. We still need to add another bullpen arm. We still need to, you hear all these rumors about potentially adding another ace, whether, it be one of the guys from the Marlins or a Dylan Cease or somebody that we're not thinking of. It looks like the Mets right now are in a position where they're still going to add. With them being over the luxury tax, the highest threshold, I see them in a position where they're not completely going to abandon trying to win in 2024. And I think having our team owned by Steve Cohen, the richest owner in baseball, I don't think he has the stomach for it. He is a guy who has been notorious for winning his whole life, right? He's got $20 billion almost. Everything the guy's done, he's practically been successful. So I got to give Cohen credit for that. And the guy's 65, I think Cohen's 65, 66, around there in his mid 60s. How many years does Cohen want to give up? And is Cohen going to own the Mets for is it going to be a 10-year investment? Or does he plan to hand this down to his kids in the future? Because that's something that I think about. I would love him to own the Mets for the next 20, 25 years, then pass it to his daughter run the team like Cohen, and then have a huge thing. But I don't know. But what I do know is I don't think Cohen in New York City is going to tolerate us losing. I really don't. I don't. Cohen did say in the midst of the Max Scherzer comments that we are going to be opportunistic. Maybe we're not going to pedal to the metal because the free agents right now aren't worth it. Virtually the free agents, I don't want to say, they all stink, but the crop isn't that best. It isn't the best. Besides Yamamoto at the top of the pitching heap, you obviously Jordan Montgomery's still out there and Blake Snell is out there, but you don't got teams, I don't think clamoring over them. Maybe you got one or two teams willing to pay, but there are a lot of reservations paying a Blake Snell. There are a lot of reservations paying Jordan Montgomery $200 million or whatever Boris, their agent, is looking for. All these guys are rep by Boris as well. Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, the other guys like Bellinger. They're all rep by Boris, which does make it a bit interesting. But those guys, the Mets shouldn't be interested. If this was a final piece, okay, yeah, that's fine. But I do really like where the Mets are, because I have to be realistic in one sense. David Stearns just took over the team 2 months ago or 3 months ago, basically just took over the team. So he had to do a quick evaluation. Billy Epler, a guy who was supposed to be by his side, left like a week or two after Stearns was there. So now Stearns has left to do all these evaluations by himself. And would it be really, how responsible would it be for a Stearns to all of a sudden dole out all these hundreds of millions of dollars of contract or make all these like instant trades? I think it's wise right now to evaluate what you have. Meanwhile, still acquiring talent. You sign him to short term that may have potential. Like Luis Severino in the past was successful. Manaea to a point was successful. Adrian Hauser, wasn't elite, but he had a good year a few years ago as well. In fact, we heard that the former GM, I forgot his name, from the Mets, he said that he was having talks about Hauser and they wanted McNeil for Hauser. It just goes to show you that Hauser's value a few years ago was high. So he did acquire guys who have had a modicum of success. And Luis Severino has had success. He's just been injured. So hopefully if they see these guys, whereas they can tweak it and they can work with these guys, we could have something there. And if we do get that ace, if we decide to, trade some of our guys, and that's what I believe is going to be the most interesting. Do we have the stomach to trade some of our top prospects? And, I'll give you an example. I saw the trade. I forgot who proposed it. It was on Twitter, and they proposed a trade for Dylan Cease, and it was revolved around they had it around Jet Williams, Mark Vientos, and one other player. So, it was the question, would you be willing to get a top tier pitcher? Or, Dylan Cease, I don't consider him top tier pitcher, but I consider him a guy with good stuff and who would be a solid pitcher for us. But if you acquire a solid pitcher, are you willing to give up at least one of our top five players? That would have to include a Jet Williams. It just really depends. It really depends. I mean, that's where Stearns would have to come in. Like, how does he foresee a guy like Jet Williams playing in the future? Where does he fit in? Would we be better off trading away a Luis Angel Acuna? That's where these guys have to do their magic. That's where these guys have to do their work. But nonetheless, if you acquired a pitcher where you could put at the top of your rotation and makes your pitching staff that much better. Good. Yep, Yuki, good stuff. Take a chance. You're the richest owner. James, how you doing? Last place in the NL East. I mean, you never know. That's going to the other end. I could see them 3 or 4. I don't see the Nationals as better than them right now, and I see them as better than the Marlins. So I slot them in right behind the Phillies right now. And really, like, who knows? Who knows? If you look at the Mets core, them being, the Mets have a decent core. They didn't really touch their core last year. They still have Nimmo. They still have Alonso. They still have Lindor, obviously. Diaz is coming back. They still have Senga, who has ace-like potential. So they still have guys that they could build a team around. These guys aren't old. These are guys who are in their prime right now. What if Alonso has a breakout year? Last year, he was on pace to hit 55, 60 home runs. If he hits around 50 home runs, if you have McNeil bat like a batting champ, if Nimmo continues to get better, he hit over 23 home runs last year. So if he continues to get better, if Alvarez builds off his rookie year, if he hits 30 home runs, If Lindor continues to be a top shortstop in the major league, there are some things that you could build around. And then you got your young folks. If Mark Vientos, somehow his power translates to the major leagues, he's been stellar in AAA in the minor. It's just that he hasn't translated to the big leagues. If Brett Beatty if his talent translates to the major league, they have pieces. And then if they bring up a Drew Gilbert, a Luis Angel Acuna, and these guys, if one of those guys becomes some type of budding star, comboed in with those other guys I just mentioned, their offense looks to be set. Now you look at their defense. They have up the middle defense. Lindor is solid. They just signed Harrison Bader, who's supposed to be an elite center fielder. So they're trying to work on their up the middle defense, which is smart. Alvarez looked pretty decent last year, blocking the plate. He looked decent throwing out runners. So I do like that they're trying to improve their up the middle defense. They're trying to add a crap load of arms. You know, whether you like the signings or not, at least they're trying to add depth, and they are remaining active. I can't tell you how many years the Mets would just be like that team that didn't do anything when they were under the Wilpon regime, and then they make their like Dylan Betances signing. Everybody would clap hands. Oh my God, we're done. We're going to be good next year. I remember those years, they used to sell us a bill of goods. At least you see David Stearns active and trying. He's literally trying, literally overhauling almost half the rotation, not half the rotation, almost half the team, or at least 30% of the team. You know, that's been a significant turnover this year. And it's yet to be seen how successful David Stearns is going to be. But that gets me to my next point. We have David Stearns, right? David Stearns has been one of the presidents / GMs that has been renowned all throughout baseball. He's been really got recognition from everyone. Milwaukee wanted to retain his services. They know how talented of a baseball evaluator / scout / GM he is. So, at this point right now, the Met fans, we have the richest owner in baseball. Now we have a good talent evaluator / president / GM in David Stearns. We have him running our baseball organization. And, when you're not successful, you have to try different things. And at this point right now, we see David Stearns trying different things. So if this doesn't work, if Severino's not successful, he traded for Hauser. He obviously signed Manaea. I'm pretty sure he's going to trade for another starting pitcher. There is a lot of speculation out there that it could be a top echelon starting pitcher, but then it just gets you back into that conversation. Do you want to trade any of these young prospects? And here's the thing. If we don't trade for an upper echelon pitcher, it doesn't mean we're not going to acquire one this year. It just might mean that, hey, maybe David Stearns wants to evaluate what we have right now, how good we're going to be. Is it even worth trying to acquire a starting pitcher? Like, are we a starting pitcher away from being a competitive player of team? Because that's what I think David Stearns would have to believe. If he's going to trade away one of our Jet Williams or somebody in our top five minor league guys, you have to believe that the guy you're acquiring will make you a competitive playoff team. Otherwise, it makes no sense. So it does make sense that at least David Stearns is trying to get everything else done. He's trying to get defensive guys in the outfield. He's trying to beef up the rest of the starting rotation, the back end of the starting rotation. We still need, in my opinion, that bat. We still need a guy to protect Pete. Everybody, every time I bring this up, I have a few people reach out. Well, we have Vientos, we have Francisco Alvarez, but, think of this. Do you really want to put that type of pressure on your young players? Even if they are capable. If they are capable and you have them further down the lineup and you have another veteran doing the job in your 5-hole, your overall lineup is that much stronger. I'd rather be in a position right now where I have an older veteran who can take pressure off the young kids so they can perform in the 6, 7, 8-hole. They don't have to worry about protecting Pete because it's going to be a big job. They're going to be walking Pete to get to you. Then there's going to be pressure on you as the batter to perform. And I don't want to put my young guys in that position right now. I'd rather them develop a little further down in the lineup, and I think that'll garner more success over the long term. Now, the next point, Senga. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Senga is phenomenal pitcher. I believe they had him ranked as the 8th best pitcher of 2023. So the Mets signing him for about $15 million a year, that wasn't too shabby. I got to give Billy Epler a little credit for that, because I don't like 90% of the moves Epler made. I didn't like, but signing Senga for $15 million was phenomenal. If Senga was in this market, he'd no doubt make over $20 million. And he'd probably get a longer contract, probably a guaranteed 5-year contract. $150 million wouldn't be out of the realm if he was a free agent this year. So we got a guy, but Senga, as I mentioned, I don't believe he's an ace. And if we're talking about building for the 2025 and beyond, it starts now. You can't just start building once the calendar turns to 2025. You have to start building in 2024 for 2025. So we have to start building this year. All right. So and that's the thing. And Senga, I don't think he's a number one. And I don't even think he came to this rotation to be a number one. If you remember, he came here when we already had our superstar pitchers in place. So he never came here intending to be that number one. So I think in terms of his success and his durability long term and taking pressure off Senga, it would be more beneficial getting a guy that we can put that workload on. And also it will make the rotation stronger. Now, just a couple side notes. I don't know if anybody saw this, and this is like connected to the Mets in a way. I don't know if everybody saw the Stroman. Stroman is actually reaching out to the New York Yankees and literally begging the New York Yankees, saying, "I would love to play for you." And I got to say, at this point in Stroman's career, you know, the past comments or the way he's acted is coming back to bite you. Stroman has me blocked on Twitter. I've never even contacted the guy. I've never had any interaction with the guy. So I don't know what his deal is, but this is why I feel you have to act professional no matter how good you are, because now teams Stroman's a pretty decent pitcher, but there's a good part of the Major League Baseball that is staying away from the guy because he's been a troublemaker. It's just so silly one time, sometimes. I mean, the guy gets emotional, the guy gets upset, and then he just somehow finds a way to piss off all of MLB. It just makes no sense. Keep your comments to yourself. I know you might be upset, but you're going to lose a lot of money if you open up your mouth. And it seems like Stroman is struggling to get that contract. Now, I don't believe he's been signed as of yet, but yes, James Buckley, Stroman is a head case. He is a head case. For a time, I did want Stroman to be a Met because he was solid. He always had, came out there and he gave us good 6-7 innings. But at the end of the day, he's trashing the clubhouse, and it just wasn't worth it. You're never going to be a cohesive unit if you got a troublemaker just saying that guy's bad, that guy's bad, that guy's bad. And then at the end of the day, the fingers get pointed at you, and then you turn your head like, I'm innocent, I'm good. But no, it doesn't work like that. People see right through that. Teams are seeing right through that. And right now, you got two guys begging for a contract. You got Marcus Stroman begging for a contract, and you got Trevor Bauer begging for a contract. Now, Stroman, I believe, will get a contract, but Trevor Bauer, and people were saying, I want our New York Mets to sign him. Yankee fans were saying, I want New York Yankees to sign him. But it just really doesn't look like a lot of teams want to go down that avenue. It really does. Yeah. Yuki, he's burned a lot of bridges in the past. Stroman, same with Bauer, and these are two good examples. Bauer being another more extreme case, but your actions affect your future. And Jeff Bowden, the GM who trashed the Mets, said his comment about Trevor Bauer is that no team in baseball will ever give Trevor Bauer another chance. I don't know if that's the case. If Steve Cohen wasn't the owner of the Mets, I can kind of see the Mets exploring that. But Steve Cohen has had a very hard stance about abuse and violence and sexual harassment. It's been an issue with the Mets in the past. Jared Porter, Mickey Callaway. So it's something that Steve Cohen, I don't think, would want to go down, or Rhodey wouldn't want to go down. But it's you got a guy right there, Trevor Bauer, who's got a lot of talent, but no teams are willing to sign the guy because you know what? He's been a jerk in the past. He's admitted it himself. He said, "I've been a jerk." He was on WFAN the other day, and he was very apologetic. But I'm of the belief that people do deserve a second chance, especially since he wasn't convicted. But MLB right now doesn't look like they are ready. There we go, D. Let's go Mets. So we got another month and a half going, and I expect a bevy of moves from the Mets. The Mets, in my opinion, are not done. They're not done. Their moves have indicated that they are trying to build something. Do we know their whole plan? No. Nobody knows their whole plan. And David Stearns, I believe he's got all these different options. So as guys get signed, as players choose other organizations, he does have option A, B, C, and D. So does he know exactly who he's going to sign? No, because in free agency, it really depends on where players want to go, where they want to be. Right now, we are not the team we were last year. In the last couple of years, we were viewed as a World Series contender. Not this year. Not this year. We're not going to go in as favorites, which I don't really mind. I'd rather go in as more of a long shot. I'd rather exceed expectations than fail with expectations. D, you believe they might go after D. I believe they may go after Manaea quietly. If that's the case at this point right now, that would kind of surprise me, but that would pleasantly surprise me. It would really pleasantly surprise me. So I would hope for something like that, because Manaea would enhance the depth of the team, and it would just give us more potential. It doesn't really seem like a guy that David Stern would be interested in, a guy that wouldn't probably cost anywhere near Yamamoto, but he could provide you that much more value. So that's not a bad take. Frank, thank you for the question. The question is, would you trade Beatty for Luzardo straight up? Honestly, I think 99% of Met fans who know who Luzardo is would trade for him, but there's no way the Marlins would do that straight up. There's no way. There's no way. I believe Luzardo has like 4 or 5 years left of control. He's 26 years old. I think it would have to be a lot more than that. If Beatty, built up his value and he had a phenomenal last year, you may have that trade that works. But right now, pitching is so valuable, so valuable, and that's probably why the Marlins, they feel like they can flip one of these guys and turn it into 3 or 4 different prospects for the future. But yeah, to my answer, if they would do that, it would be an absolutely yes. Good question. Would you rather trade for Cease or sign Manaea? So here's the thing. In terms of upside, I think Dylan Cease has better stuff, and I think he has more upside. He's, I think, a year or two younger, so he's a bit younger. but it's going to cost you prospects. It's got to cost you prospects. So do you see yourself, based on the position we're in right now, I would have to say I go with Imanaga, because if I'm going to trade my top prospects, some of my top 5 prospects away, I would have to view myself as being in it to win it for a World Series this year. And I'm not sure the Mets could be a World Series contender this year or next. I don't know if we're built like that. So if you trade for Dylan Cease and you give up top 5 prospects, you have Dylan Cease for 2 more years. So that means you would have to see yourself as competing for a World Series in either 2024 or 2025. Otherwise, Dylan Cease could walk next year and you just traded a couple prospects away. So, I mean, you could take a chance, but I'm not willing to take that risk right now. I'd rather sign a guy like Imanaga, who you don't have to give up prospects, who does have upside, and you don't just have 2 years. Maybe you could sign the guy for 3-4 years. What's up, Uncle Ted? Beatty is trash, who couldn't hit water. Fell out of a boat. Yeah, I mean that he didn't do well last year. That's the problem right now. Like, if you're trading him to the Marlins, you're trading Beatty when his value is at its lowest. So I maybe if Beatty comes out, he has a phenomenal year. He still would have 4 years left of control. His value would skyrocket. But right now, he still has value, but his value is a lot lower than it was at the beginning of last year. Yuki. So I'd give Stroman 3 years, $45 million, take it or leave it. I'd give Bowers 5 years for $5 million, take it or leave it. The Stroman thing, like I said, to have that head case for another 3 years, $15 million isn't a lot of money. So I see what you're doing there. You're really giving him a very low AAV contract, and you're hoping that we get a guy who could pitch mid-3 ERA and is a very decent, solid starter. But if he's going to negatively affect half my team, I just don't see him being a piece on a championship roster. And my goal for the New York Mets is to win a championship. He's not a championship piece, in my opinion. He's not. But okay. So let's go. Bowers, 5 years for $5 million. Too long for Bauer. If you want to sign him, if you do want to sign him and you want to sign him at a value contract, if you want to give him $1 million for two years, that's fine. That's fine. But, you got 2 head cases right now that most of MLB are scared of. So it'd be really tough to lock yourselves with one of these guys or any of these guys. So this is the rotation right now. We have Senga, Quintana, Severino, Manaea, and Hauser. Yeah, I mean, honestly, probably because you got the lefties split up. You got Manaea and Quintana split up. That's what they like to do. I still think that we got to add one more guy. One more guy. You add, and this is where Stearns. Everybody's like, I don't want to give up top prospect, but this is where we got Stearns. Stearns has to work his magic. This is why we give a guy like Stearns over $10 million a year, because he has to try to find a way where he can get an upper echelon pitcher. Maybe we take somebody's bad contract that's going to expire at the end of next year. Maybe there's a team that's close to the luxury tax. I don't know the whole landscape, but Stearns should know the whole landscape and what deals are on the table. But bottom line, if we could bump Senga down to the number 2 spot, Quintana down to number 3, and then if you get Severino or Manaea, one of the 2 guys to have a breakout season or to pitch like they pitched a couple years ago, now you got Senga as good, you got your other ace that's good, and then you got Severino or Manaea, one of those guys having a good, solid comeback year. So that's how your rotation becomes good. And then if you have 3 good starters, that gives you your playoff chances a lot better possibilities. Last year, one of the biggest reasons why we stunk was our starting rotation was horrible. That was supposed to be the strength of our team, and it was just horrid. What's up, Explosive? So you're right. The Dodgers punted on the 2023 offseason. They did nothing. So they could attack 2024. Mets are doing the same thing. Well, the thing about the Mets right now, they're still going over the luxury tax. The last I looked at FanGraphs, I'm not sure how accurate that is. They have the Mets payroll at $306 million, which is over the biggest Steve Cohen tax threshold of $297 million. But they aren't going pedal to the metal. I mean, they tried to sign Yamamoto. They tried to give him a lot of money, but Yamamoto wanted to go to the Dodgers. So I could definitely see us making some type of reset just at the fact we're going to just shed a lot of money. We're going to shed a lot of money just naturally. We're going to lose Scherzer. We're going to lose McCann. We're just going to lose a lot of guys. I don't know if we're going to decide to pay Alonso, but there is a lot of money just naturally going to fall off the books at the end of this year. So next year, if we're going to be aggressive and we could possibly build something, Stearns has to build something. He does. We have over $300 million on the payroll this year, even though it's not being utilized correctly. If you look at it, we only have like $180 or $200 million being utilized correctly. Because if you have the $60 million from our garbage players and then you have $20 million from Marte, you have a lot of garbage money on the books. So hopefully Stearns builds something and we can attract free agents. Because in my opinion, I don't know, I just might be a biased Mets fan. I just feel that Soto wants to be in Queens. I really do. I'll be interested to see how he does in the Bronx, but I think that's a guy who the Mets could go after. And of course, we have to go after pitching. Have to 100% go after pitching because these guys, our rotation, we have like no pitching for next year besides Senga. What's up, John? The Marlins want a lot more. You're absolutely right. If they're going to trade one of their young, promising pitchers, and these guys have like 4 or 5 years of control, especially with the pitchers being at such a premium price, they're going to want multiple top prospects. And that's why there's a lot of teams right now that just haven't pulled the trigger because there's only a handful of teams that see themselves, like the Dodgers. They were willing to pull the trigger and give up one of their top prospects to the Rays because they see themselves as World Series favorites. So for a team like that, it makes sense. The Braves, they just gave one of their top guys, they traded to Boston. They did that because acquiring Chris Sale, they feel that they could be World Series favorites or contenders. You have to see yourself as being a World Series favorite in order to make these type of risky trades. And it was Vaughn Grissom that went to Boston in the Chris Sale trade. The Mets right now, if it was last year or before that, they saw themselves as closer to being World Series contenders. But this year, I think the Mets, the David Stearns, are taking a wait-and-see approach. How are the Mets going to come out of the box? How does Vientos and Beatty, how are they going to react to 2024? Is Beatty going to all of a sudden hit like we know he can hit? Is Marte going to have a comeback year? Is Nimmo, Alonso, and Lindor, are they going to continue to be all-stars? There are a lot of ifs and question marks. And these first 2 to 3 months on the Mets is going to be key. So if you're a Mets fan and you want to see us make moves, those first 2 or 3 months are going to be everything. And if we aren't good, if we aren't where we want to be, then these guys like Luis Severino, Adrian Hauser, with Manaea, these guys, if one of those guys are good, those guys are trade chips. Those guys are trade chips because these are short-term contracts. Luis Severino, we only sign him to 1 year. So if he's a guy who performs or he dominates and the Mets are still not good, he's a guy that provides a lot of value to a contending team. And those are more chips. So, that's another way we can continue to build for 2025. But you're absolutely right, John. Give the Marlins Parada and Beatty and cash. It's still not going to work because you got other teams making superior offers. Parada's value is at an all-time low. Beatty's value is at an all-time low. If Parada recently got drafted and he was one of those projected top 5 picks, and Beatty didn't have the season he did last year, I could see maybe that trade working out. All right. If our starting pitchers stay healthy, we will be better than last year. Scherzer and Verlander were no shows for much of the year and out the door at the deadline. I don't mind us getting another starter and another DH, and I'm all for that. And this is what I want. And I don't want to be a greedy Met fan, but our payroll is over $300 million. So why not at this point? We're well over the luxury tax line. And Steve Cohen said, if we're going to go over it, we're going to go well over it. At this point right now, we're only about 8 or 9 million over it. So adding another starter is totally in the realm of possibility. Adding another bullpen arm and adding a bat. And adding a bat that could potentially bat in the number 5 hole is something that I'm looking for. Turner was a guy that was being bandied about in the beginning because he is a guy who could play all around the diamond. He could play third base, second base. He provides a lot of veteran presence, and he's a good run producer. Last year at age 38 in Boston, this guy can handle the light. He's a guy the Dodgers have really sought after the last almost decade. The Dodgers love this guy. He won a World Series with the Dodgers in 2020. So, under the bright lights, the big stages, this guy, Justin Turner, can perform. And at the old age of 39, he just had a great year last year. Drove in, I think, 95, 96 runs. So he's a run producer. So he's a guy that I wouldn't mind signing. And I think he possibly would sign. Then you got other guys who are not as feasible, but I would want more, like a Soler. I would want him more, but I just don't think that the Mets are in a position right now to sign him. Hey, Ramon, how's it going? Hopefully, you're enjoying your 2024. At least the Mets are giving us some moves, at least something to break down and analyze. All right, so I'm going to go through everybody's question real quick. So we need one more of either Marte, Stewart, or Beta to have a good year, and we may be a tough team. Yeah, I mean, if, multiple of these guys put something together, if Harrison Bader has the year that he had a couple years ago where he had 15 home runs, and, he's a guy who should have more power in my opinion. He's 6 foot, 6'1". He's had 15 home runs in the past. I forgot which year it was, but watch it be the 2019 year where everybody hit a bunch of home runs. But nonetheless, we got him for his elite defense. Stewart's a guy who could break out. We saw last year how, he hit well and he had some really good hot streaks. And Marte, we know he was injured. And I think I hear him, he's playing well in the summer league or winter league, whatever it is. So yeah, we definitely need those guys to definitely step up. Ramon, hello. You can see this trade Luzardo and Avisail Garcia for Acuna, Beatty, and Navarez. While looking at it from our end, Beatty and Navarez has no value. Beatty's value, like I've been saying, has been diminished. So then you're really looking for Acuna, for Luzardo and Avisail Garcia, with Beatty and Navarez's trade value being diminished. It's just really tough. I love the trade, but I just think that Miami right now, Miami's asking for a lot. I think we're just going to need more than that. I think you're looking at Acuna and another top five, and maybe a top pitching prospect. And that's why I'm like, I don't know if we're ready to make a move like that. If you're gonna make a move like that, and adding a Luzardo is gonna make you a World Series contender, yeah, then you make that move. Then it's worth it. But that's why, like, I'd rather step back right now and kind of evaluate. Or you could think like, Acuna's value is at an all-time high. You don't want him to come to the major leagues and fail like Beatty did. That's another thing you risk. Last year, if we would have traded Beatty before he hit the major league, he could have got more back in a trade than him having or having a bad year. So you could, if you don't think Acuna is going to work out, maybe you want to put him in a package for one of these pitchers. And I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. Maybe I'm discriminating against the guy because he's short, but I'm thinking Jet Williams right now, and I don't watch minor league ball. I just look at the numbers, and I know he's been doing great. I know Jet Williams' value right now. It seems to be at an all-time high, and there's probably people in here that know a lot more about Jet Williams than I do. But I just see if there's something that we can get, if we can utilize his Jet Williams, his all-time trade value. I mean, he plays shortstop, second base. We're already like kind of plugged up, especially in shortstop. He's a guy I would be willing to put in a package. Take advantage of his all-time trade value. Right now. It might be a big mistake. Like I said, I haven't followed the guy probably as much as everyone in here. But, if there's a package out there and you can get a top arm, I wouldn't mind building a package around Jet Williams, especially because we have so many shortstop prospects. Like I said, it could be stupid of me. I don't know. That's what I'm just thinking. And then Explosive, you're right. Mets need not to make any big trades this offseason. They aren't a contender. No reason to trade the future. All right, so that would be a reason not to trade a guy like Jet Williams. It depends. Like I feel like the Met fan base right now is kind of split. You got half the fans right now that just said, hey, pump the brakes, relax, let's wait till 2025. And then you got the other half of the fan base saying, hey, we're paying hard-earned money right here. I want you to win now. I've been sold a bill of goods every year for the last 40 years. Every year, next year, and the Mets still don't win. So I could see both sides of the fence. One day I'm like, yeah, it's smart to build for the future. And then another day I wake up, I'm like, hey, what are we doing? I want to win now. So I could see both sides of the equation. So Dante, you're right. Have you seen the size of Jet's quads? He looks like a mini Mike Trout. No, I really haven't. But the guy's 5'6", so he's got pop, power, explosiveness. So I guess that's where he generates a lot of his power from. All right, so Explosive, you read again. Andy Martino said the Mets are, for the most part, done. I mean, I'm not really sure. The Mets and David Stearns are sharing their entire plan with Andy Martino. Yes, he's plugged in, but I just don't think that, they confirm with Andy if they're done or not. So the thing is, there have been reports that they're not done. So you hear reports from guys like Andy that they're done, and then you hear reports from other people saying they're not done. So I don't think anybody really knows. right, Frank, you're right. Trust in Stearns. He has done it before. So far, he has done a great job. I think that's fair to say, but it's incomplete right now. Like we haven't really seen all these guys play yet, so it's really hard to truly evaluate. If we evaluate him for building depth and for getting a lot of pieces, yeah, he's done a great job in that. But I just need to see how these pieces actually play, and I'm sure that's what most of us Met fans are waiting for. Like if he's found like 3, 4, 5 gems that no other GMs found, and he got him at all these value contracts, I would say he did a phenomenal job. He did a phenomenal job. But the fact that he's building depth, okay, yeah, I would say he did a good job with that. But right now the offseason still is incomplete. And I think David Stern is a guy, and I'll tell you, this is what I see David Stern. He's a guy that his job is never finished. It's never finished. He will always try to work and tweak the team. The job is to always get incrementally better. If you make these giant steps, there's giant risk. But if you incrementally make each parts of your team better, that's a more conservative and more efficient way to make the entire team better. And there's less risk in doing that. So that's why, like, for me to see him making a trade that maybe I wanted to make, I'm not really sure. I have to see what prospects we give up. But I think it might be more fodder. It might be more fodder. I'm not too sure. But on the other hand, would I be surprised? The reason why I wouldn't be surprised is because Steve Cohen is our owner. And Steve Cohen may say, we're New York City. We're marquee. We need to have an ace. We need to have an ace there. And also, too, next year when we want free agents like Juan Soto to sign with us, we gotta be in the process of building something. We gotta be in the process of showing him that we have a future here. And I'm pretty sure Juan Soto wants to go to a team that is capable of winning now and in the future. I don't think it's gonna be acceptable to say, hey, Juan, you're in the middle of a 3-year rebuild. In 2 or 3 years, yeah, we'll be ready. So we got to sell Juan that we're going to be ready by next year if we want Juan. And Juan's just one player. You could plug in any pitcher you want to sign. I'm pretty sure any pitcher who signed, especially if they're in their 30s, they want to go to a team that's ready to win. And this is where I give DeGrom credit. Everybody laughed at DeGrom last year when he was going to sign with the Texas Rangers because he said his goal is to win a World Series. Everybody was like, ha, you're going from the Mets, who just won 101 games, to the Rangers. And I think the Rangers won like 70 games. So, Jacob was able to see that they were building something great there. Ramon, you're right. Can you tell us the trade value for Harold Ramirez or the return in a trade with the Mets? Well, what I can do is we can actually look at baseball trade values to see what Harold Ramirez is going for right now. So he's going to be 29 years old. Last year, he hit 12 home runs, 68 RBIs. He batted .313. Let's see. Okay, yeah, no, I just checked. Like Harold Ramirez doesn't have any trade value. His trade value is like 1.5%. So I mean, according to baseball trade values, um, there could be you could swing many different variations of move if you're a Mets, if the Mets wanted him. Like I'll give you a guy on the Mets. Um, they have a minor league guy named Javier Antencio. I'm probably not pronouncing that right. He has a trade value of 1.2. Grant Hartwig has a trade value of 1.6. But yeah, no, I mean that guy doesn't have any crazy trade value. Yeah, I mean, like the thing about Andy Martino, it just feels that he just, and I've said this in the past, when he has a chance to like needle Met fans, he just likes to do it. He likes to do it. I don't know if it gets him attention or whatnot. I don't know what type of fan he is. It seemed like he's received a lot of criticism in the past, so maybe this is his way of kind of like getting back at people who have criticized him. But in terms of reporting accurate information, not opinions, he's been good. But that is his opinion, and I just don't think that's accurate because it's just an opinion. Okay, so I mean, this is what I was talking about before with the Harold Ramirez from the Rays. He has a value of 1.5 over here. So I mean, like you could virtually. I mean, if you, I don't know who this guy is, but I mean, if you're the Mets, you probably don't want to give up starting pitching. But if you truly value this guy, Harold Ramirez, the Rays are probably looking for some type of starting pitcher. But this is the type of trade that, like, it looks like baseball trade values would approve. Hey, Robbie. So you're right. You know how much I love this team? Just that I don't want to be mad in 2024. I look to the future. This is my perception of reality. I think most realistically, a lot of Mets fans, obviously we all love this team. Some more than others. Some, really live and die with the team. Like, it really affects them mentally on a day-to-day basis. If the team's not doing well, they're not doing well. So, I can really understand that. But I think right now the team, as opposed to when the Wilpons owned it, we have a lot more potential. And even if we do make a mistake, just because of the fact that we have the richest owner in baseball, we don't have to be perfect. In the past, we had to be perfect. We had to thread the needle. We don't have to do that anymore. We could put our eggs in many different baskets, and if half of them fail, half of them fail. Then at least we'll be successful in half of our baskets. So I think knowing that and knowing that we have a guy like David Stearns who took an organization like Milwaukee who has no money, no resources, and he elevated that organization to the playoffs multiple times, I believe 5 times in 8 years. That's something to really hang your hat on. And you gotta like Frank said it best. You have to trust in Stearns. Until the guy fails in New York, he only had a track record of success. So it only makes sense to trust the guy. So that makes a lot of sense. Oh, honestly, I'm not in New York. I don't know how the weather is. I'm in Florida right now. The weather down here is actually not the best either. We have like tornado alerts, but how bad is it in Florida? I mean, I'm sorry, how bad is it in New York? So, according to Pat Ragazzo, it says that Mets superstar slugger is still not talking contract extension. So, according to Will Salmon of The Athletic, the New York Mets and superstar first baseman Pete Alonso have still not spoken about a contract extension. Back in December, it was reported that there had been discussions held between the Mets and Alonso's camp, but nothing has changed since then. Alonso's agent, Scott Boras, has stated multiple times that their side is open for business regarding their willingness to discuss an extension with the Mets president of baseball operations, David Stearns. Alonso is headed into the final year of his arbitration, which sparked trade rumors. However, Stearns has reiterated on several occasions that he expects Alonso to be the Mets' opening day first baseman this upcoming season. In all likelihood, Alonso could be traded at the deadline if the Mets are out of contention, or he will go to free agency where New York will have to compete to sign him against other teams. While an extension doesn't appear to be likely at the moment, Stearns did say back in November that the Mets would have those discussions with Alonso this winter. These talks typically occur in February or March, so time will tell if they come to fruition. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Pete Alonso is a huge part of our organization. He's a huge part of what we do. So knowing what we do with Pete is pivotal. And it does make sense. If you're the Mets and David Stearns, you want to take care of business. You want to sign the players that currently can help you for 2024 before you worry about Pete and 2025. So the fact that they're not talking and Stearns already promised Boras and Alonso that we're going to talk this winter, I do like that dialogue. He did promise that Pete's going to be on the roster opening day, but I don't know how much of that is just said just to appease the fan base. But, at the end of the day, we have one more year left with Pete, and holding Pete here, I think, is pivotal for certain reason, because other free agents, if we trade away Pete, that's not going to look good for us signing free agents for 2025. You want to be building around what you already have, not tearing it down. But like I said, it will be determined how Stearns views this ball club. Are we a reclamation process for 3 years to 5 years in the future, or does he think that he can fix this in 1 to 2 years? Oh, wow. Everybody in New York, be safe with the wind, especially, around like, crappy looking trees and stuff like that, with the branches and all. Hopefully everybody's safe. If anybody doesn't have to work, stay inside. Yeah, the wind is tough. That's scary when it gets really windy. Wow, Frank. Awesome, awesome stuff. So been a Mets fan since 1962. All I hope for this team is fun to watch and has a chance for the playoffs. So you know what, Frank. First of all, I got to give you all the credit in the world. Being a fan since 1962. There's nobody that's been more loyal than you. Um, and yeah, I hope the team is fun. It seems like we used to have a fun team years ago, but in the last couple of years, could Fordo left, and we made a couple of different moves, and the team just didn't really seem fun anymore. But I'll say one thing: the team is always a lot more fun to watch and a lot more exciting to watch when you have homegrown players and when you add like superstars. So if we keep Pete and then we're able to add superstars next offseason, that'll just naturally make the team fun to watch. And obviously, the team is fun to watch when we win. Last year was horrible. Covering the team for, this was my first year doing, YouTube and having a channel. And the first 3 or 4 months was great, was amazing. And then June hit, and we just went in a totally different direction. And then, at first, when we went on a losing streak, I'm like, okay, when is it going to be over? And then as the losing streak persisted in January, then I'm like, wow, the season could be over. And it was. By the time July hit, we traded everything away. And then August and September was very depressing to be a Mets fan. And that was the least fun. So hopefully it's a lot better than that. The good thing is we have a lot of young kids. We got a lot of trade chips from last year. And hopefully we can develop some of our young pitchers down in the farm. I always mention this, Blade Tidwell, Mike Vassell, Christian Scott, Dominic Hamill. These are some young pitching prospects that we have that, if 2024 is going to be a year of development, I expect to see these guys early. Dante, I hope Pete's not going anywhere, because Pete just means so much more to the Mets. He really does. If we trade him to the Cubs, or we trade him to Milwaukee, or we trade him elsewhere, his value just naturally is not going to be as high to those other teams. First of all, we're trading him with only 1 year left of control. So what value are you really going to get that's going to make worth trading him? Are we going to get a future ace? Are we going to get 2 guys who we could fill the rotation that could be top end starters? I don't think so. I don't think teams are going to be willing to get it, give that away for a 2 or 3 month rental. Maybe people are desperate, but I just don't think the trade would be worth it. And I think, like Dante mentioned, and like other people mentioned in the chat, that trading Pete away would be a bad look going forward. And how could we expect to build for 2025 and beyond when we're trading our best hitter away? And like one of the most elite power hitters in all of baseball, Pete Alonso. How is that going to look? What's up, BMW? Hope you're enjoying your day. Hope you're being safe. So what's up with the Luzardo trade talks? The Marlins right now, they've just put out to MLB that they're willing to trade some of their young pitchers. And it's just natural for teams like the Mets, who need pitching, teams like the Yankees, to explore like young guys who are currently on the market, currently available. So right now they're probably just in preliminary talks, and they're exchanging player names, but nothing is serious right now. They're just phone calls, conversations, and we'll see if things get serious in the future. But nothing really looks serious. It just looks like preliminary conversations. But, the Marlins are doing that with a bevy of teams all over the league, because I'm pretty sure a guy like Luzardo has gotten the attention of many teams. Nando, one of the best points that I've heard. Steve Cohen needs to step up his dinner game. Now, honestly, nobody really kind of talks about that. I know we're just joking around here, but that dinner with Yamamoto, like, that must have been kind of awkward. Yamamoto knowing in his head that he's going to sign like with the Dodgers, or more than likely Shohei's on the team and he wants to be there. Like, how did he act? How did he How did he interact with Steve Cohen? Was he genuine? Was there a possibility that Steve Cohen could convince him? But that's a pretty interesting piece right there. So does anybody have any bullpen arm favorites? Anybody that you think we should go after? I mean, bullpen arms are pretty hit and miss. A lot of people are saying, David Robertson's a guy I would add, but I would add somebody else too. Like David Robertson had a lot of success here, but I would definitely add another arm in addition. And I would definitely want to capitalize on the fact that we have Edwin Diaz. I mean, we have something in our bullpen that nobody else really has, at least not many teams in baseball. We literally could argue that we have the best closer, best relief pitcher in all of major leagues. So to get a dominant eighth inning guy would just make our bullpen just that much better, especially since our starting rotation is not the best. You might as well beef up your bullpen. And you know what I hope, and I don't know how many people in here are Knicks fans. Hey Robert, how's it going? Hopefully enjoying your 2024. But if whoever's a Knicks fans right now, like the Knicks have excitement, they have buzz. They just made the trade for OG Anunoby last week. They're on a 4-game winning streak. And all Knicks fans are excited. I mean, like that's the type of excitement and the buzz I hope that we can generate in our Mets for our Mets, because it just feels like, we're just expecting to lose. But if David Stern builds it right, and the Knicks, they've built it right the last couple of years. It took time. It took a couple of years. But, if we see the team doing it the right way, everybody will understand. Everybody will understand. But I do think building around Pete is a very wise decision. Like, building around a homegrown Met, a guy who could smash all the records, is going to be good financially, number one. Fans are going to go out to see this guy break records in the future. And then just a talented guy who could hit 40 home runs and smash 120 RBIs. That's something that's really not out there, at least on a consistent basis. Hey, Robert. Honestly, the Teoscar move, he's going to probably bat about fifth or sixth. No, he's going to probably bat sixth in the Dodgers lineup. It's a great signing for the Dodgers. It extends their lineup tremendously. They're going to have a great lineup. I mean, it's really going to be scary. Teoscar usually bats like 3 or 4 in the lineup he's been in traditionally. So I think it's a great move, but he's a guy who did want on the Mets, but why would Teoscar Hernandez sign with the Mets if he could sign on the Dodgers? But it's a great move for the Dodgers. It extends their lineup, and he's got the guy who can drive and runs. He's a power bat, play the outfield. It's a great signing for the Dodgers. They just get better. And it's so funny, how I always mention this, and I mentioned this in the beginning of the broadcast, how Steve Cohen is not used to losing. Steve Cohen is not used to rejection. And I wonder how the guy has to feel. I remember, if we all remember this, I think it was a year and a half ago when Steven Matz pulled something, and he rejected Steve Cohen. Something happened where Steve Cohen all of a sudden just started signing players. Now this year, you have Yamamoto reject Steve Cohen, and you had Lucas Giolito supposedly reject Steve Cohen. And then after that, we sign Manaea. But now you hear the Mets are interested in an ace. So I'm wondering if it kind of like correlates, like, hey, you know what? You'll wait and see. We're gonna get our guy. We're gonna get our ace one way or the other, and we're gonna get our a good starting rotation one way or the other. I'm hoping that we're gonna take that approach because, like I've mentioned throughout this broadcast, we need to build for 2025 right now. Right now, we're not gonna just build once the calendar changes to 2025. Frank, good point. So yeah, congrats to the Dodgers, but anything less than a World Series would be considered a bad season. I mean, they made every single move from Otani to Glasnow to Yamamoto to now Teoscar. Every move with the intention to win a World Series in 2024. They've been setting up, as we mentioned earlier, from years ago, that this was going to be the season that they were going all out. I mean, stuff happens. If Shohei gets injured, if Mookie gets injured, that looks like a whole different team. If one of their they've had a lot of injuries in their starting rotation, if some of those pitchers get hurt, you don't hope people get hurt, but stuff happens that often changes the trajectory of a team. Now, the Dodgers should win. There was a lot of disappointment last year. The Braves were supposed to be the team that once we, obviously, let them run away with the division. That I thought was the World Series favorite, but you never know what happens. Teams get hot in the playoffs, and anything can happen, and that's why I honestly don't want to give up on this year. And I'm happy that you sign a guy like Sean Manaea who does have potential, and he does have stuff that's getting better. All right, so let's see. So, and I was just looking at the Mets roster right now. We're talking about defense. You want to make the pitchers better with good defense around especially in the outfield. So right now, it's looking like this. It's looking the outfield. I'll read you all the outfielders. We have Harrison Bader, Cooper Hummel, Starling Marte, Brandon Nimmo, Alex Ramirez, DJ Stewart, Tyrone Taylor. But based on those, the top three guys on starting outfielders has to be Harrison Bader, Starling Marte, and Brandon Nimmo. So if that's the alignment, Brandon Nimmo is probably going to be playing left field. Left field, Starling Marte has a better arm, so he's going to be playing right. And then you have Harrison Bader in center. So, I mean, that's providing that the Mets don't get another outfielder. I don't know how impressed you are with that outfield. Yeah, BMW, good point. Don't be afraid of the Dodgers. It makes no sense to be afraid of any team. It really doesn't, because in baseball, the thing about baseball is just you never know. And in a 7-game series, anything can happen. It really It really can. It really can. Like bats, like you could have the best lineup in the world. You could have Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman. You know, all those dominant bats. Max Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez, Will Smith. You know, their lineup is crazy. And then they got some young kids at the end of the lineup. I forgot the center fielder who is pretty good. But the Dodgers, they have a murderer's row lineup, and they got a pitching staff that's young and upcoming, and they got older veterans who are all proven. So I mean, it looks like a monster, a juggernaut team, but you just really never know. Like if they don't win this year, this would probably be a case study, and this would represent to other teams to like never give up. Because if the Dodgers didn't win in 2024 after signing Yamamoto, Ohtani, Glasnow, Teoscar, and making all the moves they've made, that would give inspiration, a hope for any team in the future to never give up. Do you, Robert? You're right. Do you think the new evil empire is the Dodgers? You know what? The Dodgers have been winning the last, I would say, since they had new ownership in about 2012, 2013. They've been consistently making the playoffs. They won the World Series one time in that run. And they went crazy with spending. You know, a handful of times they win the top echelon of the league. But I wouldn't consider them the evil empire until they start winning like World Series, and then it starts translating. But you know, not yet. If they start winning a bunch of World Series in this next decade, maybe. But they don't have that title, in my opinion. What's up, Torres? Build for 2025 right now with Watt. There's nothing out there. Why can't they wait for next offseason? They don't need that much. I mean, you know, that's not a bad. That wouldn't be a bad plan. But here's the thing: the Mets already put half their body in the water. They already made a bunch of free agent signings this year, which in turn took them well over the luxury tax. The luxury tax, the Steve Cohen tax, was $297 million. Right now, the Mets stand at $306 million. So if you're talking about resetting the luxury tax, pulling back and waiting for 2025, that would have been a strategy. That would have been good. That's what the Dodgers did last year. But the Mets have made signings that put them over the $300 million. So I think if they're over $300 million and they're paying that 90% tax and they're giving up their draft positioning and they're giving up their international money, I think they have to go pedal to the metal as much as possible this year while still building for the future. And Frank, another good point. I'm sorry, bad eyes. F Torres, plus we need to see if a couple of minor leaguers show that they could play. Absolutely, absolutely. So this year is going to be all about like seeing who could play, who can't play. But still, I want the minor leaguers, whoever it is, whether it's Vientos, Beatty, Acuna, Jet Williams, Drew Gilbert, some of the pitchers that come up, Blade Tidwell, any of these guys who come up, they have to earn their playing time. I don't want to hand anybody a position. Or if we do hand them a position, I need somebody right behind them putting pressure on them. Every one of these guys has to earn their playing time, and you know, we'll let them develop. But I still want to win. I want to win in 2024. That's why I say that. BMW, you're right. If we get a front end starter, you are set to win 86 to 90 games in 2024. I mean, that's not out of the realm. I mean, with a similar core, we won 101 games, you know, a little over a year ago. So if you get a frontline starter or a guy that has frontline starter stuff, and you add it to a rotation that already has Kodai Senga, Kodai Senga was a top 10 pitcher from last year. Then, you know, a bunch of solid starters, Quintana, you know, Hauser, and some of the new guys we picked up, Severino and Manaea. you got depth there. You still got McGill. You still got Peterson, who should pitch a lot better than he pitched. And then you have your core of Lindor, Alonso. These guys are all-stars. They should perform. So, yeah, there's no reason why you shouldn't expect to make the playoffs, especially with the expanded playoffs. McLovin podcast. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. I really do. Thank you so much. Robert, why the two New York teams don't like each other? I think it's just, more or less like competition. I have a brother. He's a Yankee fan. I'm a Met fan. It's always been competition. You want your team to win. If the other team has won, I think if the Mets won half the time and the Yankees won half the time, it'd be a different relationship. But since the Mets have won so much less than the Yankees, then you have that like kind of little brother thing, and then it's like, ha, you're the little brother, we always win. But the fact of the matter is, none of us have won in the last over a decade. And the team that made the World Series in the most recent history was the New York Mets. So the fact is, we've both shared in a lot of unsuccessful seasons in the last couple years. Hey, Johnny, what's going on today? What's up with Chapman? He had a good year with Texas, maybe a good eighth inning option. At the end of the day, it all comes down to money with these guys. I don't know how if Chapman's looking to get paid ninth inning or closer money, or if he wants to be a closer now since he had a good eighth inning stint. I always like to get a guy with a lot of upside, a guy who has had success. Chapman's had a lot of success. I mean, he's a guy that if you have Diaz and you have Chapman in the seventh or eighth, I like it. I mean, I think it's a good option. But I don't know how much money he's looking for. Like, would you be willing to pay over $10 million or $15 million to a guy who's going to play in the seventh or coming in the seventh or eighth inning? I don't know. It depends what Chapman wants. A lot of these guys, will only pitch in the seventh or the eighth inning for the right team, for the right position. Like, I'll go to the Dodgers and I'll be a setup guy because I know I have a chance to win. But if I go to the Mets, since they stink, I got to be the closer. So I don't know if it's a scenario like that, but I'm pretty sure David Stearns is looking for the best scenario possible to make our team to put our team in the best situation possible. All right. You know what? I'm going to call it quits for now. Well, almost at an hour and 45 minutes. I appreciate everybody who joined us. I really do. I'm probably going to do a video very shortly. I got a couple of things I want to talk about. But I'm going to continue to do these live streams because we have to touch base, and I think it's like very important to communicate about this because we're trying to figure out what David Stearns is doing. I'm trying to figure out, is 2024 going to be a year that we could possibly win, or is it just a developmental year? I don't think so. I think that we are going to put pedal to the metal, and that those first 2 to 3 months will signify what we're going to do for the second half of the year. If we show that we can compete, if we have a solid rotation, if our bats hit, I think we will add at the deadline because we're already over the 297 million luxury tax threshold. So, if you want the Mets to compete in 2024, you really got to hope we come out of the box hot. All right. Thank you so much. I hope everybody stays safe today. I know the weather's a little rough. Stay inside, relax, watch some TV. The Knicks are on later. So who's ever a Knicks fan, catch them. I'll talk to everybody soon. Everyone have a great night and be safe.